I've always been a writer. I remember, starting to write when I was a kid, and being obsessed with books and television. Just the whole idea of storytelling, it just seemed fascinating to me. So probably, since then, I've been thinking about it. I think the challenge for me as a writer was understanding what kind of stories I wanted to tell. I think, I knew that I wanted to be a writer, but it probably took me a little bit of time to find my voice. So while I was figuring out, what I wanted to invest myself in like the longer form. And when I say longer form, I mean like screenplays and novels and that sort of thing. I wrote a lot of short stories and poetry, and just sort of kept exercising the voice to figure out who I was. So I'm definitely focused on television, and I'm drawn to sci-fi, though not exclusively, because I really love building worlds. I think that sort of world building piece is super fun and just challenging as well. But I think it's a misconception that world building is only for sci-fi. I think I also enjoy a period piece, and I think that actually requires a lot of the same world building muscles that science fiction does. I mean, you're going back in time. I guess it's both require a time machine, right? So but I also do like. I mean, one of the things I like about sci-fi is it gives you the opportunity to be kind of weird and unusual, a little trippy, and I think that can be done in contemporary pieces set now too. I think that strange. I like a good strange story told in the present. Yeah, and so definitely focused on television. I also write short stories. I have a novel published. And, features as well, though. I think my heart's in television right now. As someone coming from another industry, because I come from the tech world, the tech startup world, I knew a lot of what I needed was to meet people and network. And I think that there's different reasons to apply to different contests. Some are just visibility, and that's great, but others give you the opportunity to meet people, and that's something that was really appealing about Fast Track. We writers like encouragement, so every step along the way is like a little bit of a boost. Like, oh great, I made that cut. So moving along is felt good. I actually found out, I think through Twitter, that I won, which was funny. I guess I just popped onto Twitter and saw that I had been followed by ISA, which was great. And then it was like, oh wait, I'm tagged here in this. Oh, I won. So it sort of was a surprise. I think other people on Twitter knew before I did, so if I checked it first. But it's exciting. I mean, we're all looking for ways to make our mark in the industry and get some visibility and I mean, we all have our friends and immediate circles that validate our writing, but you need people outside of the people that will give you that validation. You need that sort of third party recognition, and it was great to get that from one was just the sort of velocity of the week. And I think some people might find this a little overwhelming, but for me, it was really stimulating to be meeting with so many interesting people in the industry with different perspectives, like in this one, week. I mean, I think we writers tend to we spend a lot of time like with the screen and maybe not a lot of time like talking to people, and for me, I personally need both. I need that writing time, but also that interaction and being able to talk to such like great interesting people in the industry, that are established in the industry, and get their perspective and talk about my work and my hopes and ambitions. So that was a really good thing. It's fun, that sort of pace. I think I'm trying to think. I mean, I think some of the meetings, in particular, I think the other thing you learn in meeting with so many people is that there are people you connect with more than others, and that's okay. I think that everyone's great, and I think no one. We all enter meetings with some sort of hope that we're all going to get something out of it, regardless of what side you're on. If you're pitching something or hearing something, we all want value out of the time and hope that make a good connection. So I think everybody's always gracious and interesting, but it's also cool when somebody sparks a little bit more than and you feel like you feel yourself shifting from that, like, this is a professional conversation to, hey, wow, I could talk with this person about story for a really long time, and oh wait, we're out of time. Like, and that's a lot of fun. Excellent. Really, just in short, it was great to have people pay attention to your work. I think it's so great to see how people see it differently. I think that's one of our the other thing we need to, as writers, learn how to be objective and see sort of how one piece of writing can be looked at from different angles. And so hearing from people coming from different, like, production companies with different sort of um, passions or mandates, how it fits in or how it might not fit in, or to what it is they're looking for. I think that it's a I know, it's a really valuable experience. I think being able to talk through your idea and where it came from is really important. So being able to deliver that, practice that and work on that was great. But also just getting their feedback, and hearing how they see it fitting in their world, and the answer is always a little bit different, why it fits in this world versus that world, and you learn a lot about your story that way too. Felicity and Jared, they were fantastic. It was really great. I felt like they were on our, they were there, before and after every meeting, just sort of, willing to give feedback, if necessary, and just kind of help frame and process each meeting. I think that they were very present. It was definitely they felt like part of a team, even though, like, you're kind of going out and doing these not going out, zooming out and doing these meetings, but they were very present, and I feel like, particularly, for anyone who might be introverted, it's kind of like having a team to help you train and get better at talking to people. If that's something that intimidates you, then this is actually a really good thing, the team behind you helping you out. So Ectogirls is my pilot. It's a kind of a sci-fi series based on a group of girls that are raised in isolation, as part of a reproductive experiment, and then mysteriously cut off from their makers. So they're left to survive on their own and figure out their place in the world, and figure out everything that's going on. So, a bit of a mystery. And what really inspired me about that, there's an exploration of otherness in this story, that really means a lot to me. I think that in the world that we're in right now, I think a lot of people have kind of this feeling of not belonging or not really knowing how you fit in the world, and that's something I wanted to explore in Ectogirls. Personally, I grew up kind of multicultural, and feeling like like 1 foot in different places, but maybe not 2 feet in any one place. And I think that's a feeling that a lot of people can identify with. And we just need to explore it a little bit more to have more empathy for people on the outside, so to speak, and maybe even challenge the idea of whether or not there is an outside. I think one of the things that drew me to this story, well, it's got a YA element, which I don't write exclusively YA, but I do enjoy that a lot. I think it's a really important time for self-discovery, and a lot of who you are, although we hopefully never stop changing. There's sort of the foundation is laid in that time period. So there's that. It also explores a bit of the kind of intersection of and humanity and technology, which is something that's really important to me. I think about a lot coming from the tech world, how, we can see it in the past 10, 20 years, even 5 years, just how much technology has changed how we are as humans, how we communicate, how we consume media, how we spend our time, how we order food, how we get around, and that's just the kind of tip of the iceberg, and how things are going to change over time. And when you think about humanism and all of these other things, so there's a lot to explore in that world, and that's one of the reasons that I dove into Ectogirls. I'm pretty excited about it. I probably start with character and story more than theme, but I'm going after theme pretty shortly after. I think that's one of the big breakthroughs in writing. When I first started writing, I mentioned earlier, I've been writing for a long time, but finding my voice was something that was definitely part of my journey. Um, you know, a lot of things I wrote when I was, just starting out were kind of accidental. I kind of plowed through a short story and then discovered what it was about after the fact. And it's fun. You're like, oh, look what I wrote. Let me figure out what it's about. But now when you want to take sort of a professional approach to things, you need to have a little bit more control. You don't write by accident. And so while I might like a character or a moment in a story, or even like a phrase might trigger a concept for me, or a pilot or series, um, the theme is something that very soon after I'm going to try and nail down, because that's really going to shape what I'm doing, and keep me from, like I said, writing by accident. It gives a foundation, a map to write towards. And it could change it, and it might find that after you spend time developing your pilot and your series, that theme shifts a little bit. That's okay. I mean, I think it's just, I think it's just really important to have something that connects with you, and even better if it's something that, I think a lot of people are always asking, like, why you? Why are you the one to write it? So that theme has to kind of come out of your heart, in some way or another. It's a sort of a funny little metaphor, but when I was a kid, and I held my pencil in a weird way, so every year I'd start school and my teacher would like try to correct the position I held my pen. And as a result of that, I wound up writing, my handwriting was all over the map. Like, I had different handwriting it just changed a lot. And I would look at it and I'd say, you're supposed to have handwriting, right? You're supposed to be able to tell who someone is based on their handwriting. And my handwriting kept changing. So, I mean, I think about that when I think about voice, because voice isn't something that you look at and say, oh, exactly, this is like, this is the handwriting of that person, and it always sounds the same, it always looks the same. It's more the thread that comes through everything that you write. It's kind of hard to pin down. That's why you say like it's an abstract sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, I guess what you want to say in your writing, is part of it. And maybe you don't know what you want to say, but maybe you know what you don't want to say, and maybe that's a place to start. So I feel like some people start writing and their voice is just really present. They don't have to discover it. For other people, it's a journey. And I think, either way, it's still going to evolve. And people think of theme as like, identity or something, or hope. I don't know, just one word, and sort of this general thing. But I think it's really helpful to think of what you're writing. What question is it trying to answer? What, it's not just identity, but what does identity mean in a world that to sort of take it to the next step and take a position on something. And maybe your characters are exploring different answers to that same question. But I think having that sort of question driving the story really helps rally everyone around. And when I say everyone, I mean all of your characters, around sort of the same mission in some ways, even if they have different perspectives. I'm definitely, I'm active on Twitter, so so social media has been great during the pandemic. I think, the other thing is, because I'm in Los Angeles, and because people don't have to drive anywhere, there's a kind of different level of receptivity for meetings. You can do like a 30-minute meeting and it's not really taxing for people, so I think, having the sort of courage to ask people that, that or may not know as well, or, just to reach out and trying to connect with people for meetings, and also just stay in touch with the people that you have met. I think we all have, maybe you're doing some networking, you've met like somebody, for 30 minutes, or, 7 months ago, like, what are they up to? Maybe do another meeting, follow up, keep those relationships going. I think one of the things I've done, and I've had people reach out to me, or I've reached out to people, and sort of have a kind of cadence of meetings, like we haven't talked in a while, let's get back together. And I think that's a good substitute, or for in-person meetings, sometimes even easier than in-person meetings, but it keeps sort of the, the conversations going and that sense of, that need to talk to people. I think that you need to have some level of confidence and purpose in your writing to be successful at ISA Fast Track. And that doesn't mean that that could come at different different times in writing, but in your career. But I think that if you don't feel like you can talk about your work at all, maybe practice that a little bit more. But also I think the Fast Track is a great place to stretch yourself and sort of put yourself in a position where you will have to talk more about it and explore yourself as a writer. If you've only got one screenplay written, maybe not the best time. Get a portfolio too, because one of the things, the opportunities there is not just to talk about the thing that you've submitted, but to develop relationships with people who might be interested in other things. So yeah, I think that would be important. It's not a matter of like how many years you've been writing, or but maybe how much you have to offer, and how comfortable you are in talking about it, and if you're willing to take on the challenge of talking about it with a bunch of people in a week. We really want to bring it all, like if you've got a really cool scene that's like halfway through your series, I don't know, maybe you want to get that in the pilot just to to show what can be done. It's probably going to be changed. I'm not saying throw everything in the kitchen sink in the pilot, but maybe I'm just saying don't hold back. That great scene that happens in episode 3, no one will ever see it if it's if you're keeping it secret. So maybe you want to bring as much strength and power you can to that first 40, 50. I mean, everybody will find their way to do it, and maybe their managers or representation and producers will have different expectations and needs. But what I personally need when I'm creating a pilot or creating a series is the pilot. I need to have a trajectory of where I want that to go, and I need to know what sort of key moments in that first season in particular are going to happen. So maybe it's not like every episode, but maybe it's about do I know what's going to happen midway through that's going to keep the momentum, or do I know what the penultimate episode will happen, so it's more about, like, for me, and it's more about making sure that I understand at least sort of the pace of interesting things happening, and that there is a decent pace of interesting things happening. Because if you have a great pilot and there's nothing sort of cool that's going to happen until the till the finale, then if you can, you want to be able to imagine what can fill in that space. So yeah, that I mean, I think it's also you want your like elevator pitch. You want to be able to talk about it in like a paragraph. You want to be able to talk about your theme. For me, it always helps to write these things out. And I think if you're entering some competitions, you'll find or fellowships, they ask you to write just summaries, pitches of your series, and that's really helpful. I find that I do that anyway. It's easier to talk about it when you have it already written.